The Valdric hegemony had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. 7 species united under one banner, believed they knew every corner of their domain. Their ships traveled faster than light. Their weapons could tear apart planets. Their shields could stop any attack. They were certain of their place at the top of the universe. In the grand chamber of the Hegemony Council, War Master Quellen stood before the assembled leaders. His scaled skin reflected the blue light from the holographic star map that floated above them. He was tall, even for his kind, and his 3 eyes focused on a specific region of space. "The dead sector shows unusual readings," he reported. His voice was deep and carried authority. "Our sensors detected quantum fluctuations that should not exist in an empty region." High Counselor Vexith, an elderly member of the oldest species in the hegemony, leaned forward. Her tentacles moved slowly as she spoke. "The dead sector has been empty for millennia. We surveyed it 600 years ago. Only primitive life existed on the 3rd planet of the Yellow Star." "That is correct, Counselor," Quellen replied. "Our records show radio signals from that world stopped 300 years ago. We assumed the species destroyed itself as primitives often do." Another council member, a being made of crystalline structures that refracted light, chimed in with a voice like breaking glass. "Then what causes these quantum signatures?" "Natural phenomena." Quellen manipulated the hologram. The image zoomed into what humans called the Sol system. "The signatures are too regular, too powerful. They appear artificial, but that should be impossible. No civilization could advance from radio transmission to quantum manipulation in mere centuries." The council chamber fell silent. For 12,000 years, the hegemony had been the standard by which all technology was measured. Their advancement had been slow, methodical, taking millennia to perfect each breakthrough. The idea that another species could develop faster was absurd. "Send a science vessel," Vexith decided. "A small one. If there are resources to harvest, we will claim them. If there is a civilization, they will join the hegemony or be eliminated. This is our way." Quellen bowed his head. "It will be done." 3 months later, the science vessel Eternal Seeker entered the dead sector. Its crew of 20 scientists and 10 warriors approached the Yellow Star with curiosity mixed with confidence. They had performed this mission hundreds of times before. Unknown species always reacted the same way when they met the hegemony. Fear, followed by submission. The ship's lead scientist, a thin being named Creole, studied the sensor readings as they entered the outer system. "I am detecting massive structures in orbit around the 5th planet," he announced. "The quantum signatures originate from there." The ship's captain, a warrior named Dextor, moved to look at the display. "What kind of structures?" "Unknown design," Creole replied. His fingers moved across the controls. "They appear to be mining facilities, but the energy output is enormous, far beyond what mining requires. Could they be weapons platforms?" Dexter asked. "Possibly. But the design is crude, inefficient. They are using fusion reactions, not antimatter like civilized species." Dexter laughed, a harsh sound. "Primitives playing with fire. Typical. Move us closer to the 3rd planet. If there is a civilization here, we will make contact with their homeworld." The Eternal Seeker turned toward the inner system. As they passed the orbit of the 4th planet, a red world with 2 small moons, Creole noticed something strange. "Captain, I am detecting thousands of small objects in orbit around the 3rd planet, and around its moon, and the red planet as well. Satellites," Dexter suggested. "Some appear to be, but others—" Creole's voice trailed off. "Captain, some of these objects are very large, kilometers in length, and they are made of metal. Refined metal." For the first time, Dextor felt a small tremor of uncertainty. "How many large objects?" "Scanning now." Creole worked in silence for a moment. "At least 40 in orbit around the 3rd planet alone. More around the others. And Captain, there are structures on the moon. Large structures. Industrial facilities that rival our own shipyards." The confidence in the bridge began to crack. Dexter stared at the blue and green planet growing larger on their view screen. It was beautiful, covered in water and clouds. But surrounding it was a network of stations and ships that spoke of a civilization far more advanced than the primitives they expected. "Send the standard message," Dextor ordered. "Hegemony protocol demands it." The communication officer activated the system. The message transmitted in a dozen languages. each one used by subjugated species across the galaxy. Attention, inhabitants of this system. You have entered the awareness of the Valdric hegemony. You are required to submit to hegemony authority. Prepare to receive our representatives. Resistance will result in your extinction. You have one planetary rotation to comply. They waited. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of the ship's systems. Then the response came. It was in a language the computer did not recognize at first, but the translation came through quickly and the words were simple. Negative. Leave our system. Every member of the crew stared at the communication console. In 12,000 years of hegemony expansion, no species had ever responded with such directness. No fear, no requests for negotiation, just a simple refusal. Dexter felt his 3 hearts beat faster. Anger rose in his chest. These primitives dared to refuse the hegemony. Target one of their orbital structures, he commanded. The largest one. We will show them the price of defiance. The weapons officer hesitated. Captain, we have not confirmed hostile intent. Hegemony law requires, I decide what hegemony law requires. Dexter roared, Fire! The Eternal Seeker's plasma cannons charged and released a bolt of superheated energy toward a large station orbiting the third planet's moon. The shot would vaporize the structure and kill everyone inside. It would be a lesson these primitives would never forget. But then something impossible happened. Objects around the station moved. They were small, fast, and numerous. The plasma bolt struck several of them and dissipated its energy absorbed by their sacrifice. What was that? Dexter demanded. Before Kriel could answer, the sensors screamed a warning. Multiple objects were accelerating toward them. Not energy weapons, not missiles with guidance systems, just solid projectiles moving at speeds that made Dexter's blood run cold. Evasive action, he shouted, too late. The first tungsten rod struck the Eternal Seeker's hull at a significant fraction of light speed. It punched through the ship like it was paper. The second rod struck the engine section. The third destroyed the bridge. As Dexter died, his last thought was one of disbelief. They had shields. The best shields in the galaxy. But the projectiles had passed through them as if they did not exist. The transmission went out automatically as the ship broke apart. Every piece of sensor data, every moment of the encounter, transmitted back to hegemony space at faster than light speeds. In the debris field that had been the Eternal Seeker, human salvage drones moved in to collect the remains. Admiral Chen watched from the TCNS Indomitable, her face serious. Send a message to Earth Command, she said quietly. First contact has been made, and we just started a war. The emergency meeting in Geneva had been called within an hour of the attack. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered in the Terran Coalition War Room, a massive chamber built deep beneath the Swiss mountains. Holographic displays showed the debris field where the alien ship had been destroyed. Secretary General Maria Santos stood at the center podium, her dark eyes scanning the assembled leaders. 5 years ago, our deep space network detected ships moving through space faster than light. We knew in that moment that we were not alone. We knew that first contact was inevitable. Today it happened. The room erupted in voices, fear, anger. Questions shouted over one another. Santos raised her hand and silence gradually returned. The alien vessel entered our system without permission. It broadcasted a message demanding our surrender. When we refused, it fired on our mining colony on Ganymede. 47 people died before our defense platforms responded. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main display. She was still aboard the Indomitable, positioned near the debris field. The alien ship had energy shields and plasma weapons. Advanced technology. But they had never encountered kinetic weapons. Our railguns fired tungsten rods at .27 light speed. Their shields were designed to stop energy, not solid matter. The ship was destroyed in 11 seconds. A representative from the Asian Alliance spoke up. Do we know if they transmitted data before they died? Yes, Chen confirmed. We detected a faster-than-light signal burst in the moments before final destruction. They know about us now, and they know we destroyed their ship. Santos looked around the room. This changes everything. For 200 years since the asteroid nearly destroyed us, we have been united. We built our fleet not knowing if we would ever need it. Now we do. The representative from the European Federation leaned forward. What do we know about these aliens? Chen pulled up data on the displays. Analysis of their ship's construction, and the message they sent suggests they are part of a larger organization. The term they used translates roughly to hegemony or dominion. They spoke with the authority of conquerors, not explorers. They expected obedience. How do we respond? Asked the African Union representative. Santos took a deep breath. We prepare for war. Admiral Chen, what is the status of our fleet? The Third Fleet is ready. 17 dreadnoughts, 43 cruisers, 80 destroyers, and numerous support vessels. We have been training for this scenario for decades. The crews are ready. And our defenses? Orbital defense platforms around Earth, Mars, Luna, and the major mining colonies are fully operational. We have early warning stations positioned throughout the system. If they come back, we will see them coming. A younger representative from South America stood. Should we not try to communicate? To explain that we acted in self-defense? Chen's expression was grim. Their first message was a demand for submission. Their second action was to fire on civilians. They have shown us who they are. We would be fools to assume they will listen to reason. Santos nodded. We will prepare for the worst and hope for the best. All fleet elements are to remain on high alert. Begin evacuation protocols for non-essential personnel from the outer colonies. If war comes, I want our civilians safe. 6 months passed. The tension in Sol system was like a drawn bowstring, ready to snap. Earth's factories worked around the clock, building more ships, more weapons, more ammunition. The military recruited volunteers by the thousands. Humanity, once fractured by ancient conflicts, now stood united against a common threat. Admiral Chen spent those months preparing her fleet. She drilled her crews endlessly, running simulation after simulation. The Dreadnoughts, massive ships 5 kilometers in length, practiced formation flying with the smaller, faster cruisers and destroyers. Pilots trained in zero-gravity combat. Marines prepared for potential boarding actions. But Chen also studied everything they had learned from the alien wreckage. The salvage teams had recovered pieces of their technology. Human scientists worked to understand it. Dr. James Wu, head of the Xenotechnology Research Division, gave Chen his report in her ready room aboard the Indomitable. Their technology is advanced but specialized, he explained. They have perfected energy-based systems. Their power generation is efficient. Their shields are strong against directed energy weapons, and their plasma cannons are devastating. But they have weaknesses, such as, Chen asked. They rely too heavily on their shields. They assume that if something can penetrate their shields, it must be another energy weapon, which their hull armor can then absorb. They never considered solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds, because they have never encountered them, Chen said. Exactly. Their weapons are also predictable. Plasma moves in straight lines and dissipates over distance. Our missiles can dodge, our point defense systems can intercept, and our electronic warfare capabilities are centuries ahead of theirs. Chen leaned back in her chair. Why do you think that is? They have faster-than-light travel. They clearly have advanced physics. Why are they so far behind us in certain areas? Wu considered the question. Cultural, perhaps? Or evolutionary? Maybe they developed technology in a linear path, perfecting each step before moving to the next. Humanity has always thrown everything at a problem. We try 1,000 solutions simultaneously. Most fail, but the ones that succeed give us advantages. We are messy, chaotic, and unpredictable. That might be our greatest weapon. The conversation was interrupted by an alarm. Chen's communication officer patched through to her ready room. Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting multiple faster-than-light signatures at the edge of the system. They are not trying to hide. Chen was on her feet immediately.
How many?
Counting now, Admiral. At least 40. No, 50. 50 ships inbound. Chen reached the bridge in seconds. The main display showed the sensor data. 50 contacts, all massive, all moving toward the inner system at faster-than-light speeds. They would arrive in hours. Battle stations, Chen ordered. Her voice was calm, but her heart raced. Send word to Fleet Command. The enemy has returned in force. Implement Protocol Defiant. Across Sol system, alarms sounded. Ships that had been hidden behind planets, moons, and asteroids began to move. The Third Fleet, spread across multiple positions, began to converge on predetermined coordinates. Civilian transports fled toward designated safe zones. On Earth, billions of people looked up at the sky and knew that war had come. Chen stood on her bridge, surrounded by her crew. Young faces, determined faces, faces that trusted her to lead them. Listen to me, she said, her voice carrying through the ship's communication system. In a few hours, we will face an enemy that believes they are superior. They think we are primitives. They think we will break. They are wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in. Humanity has faced extinction before. We have stared into the abyss and decided to survive. Today we show these aliens what it means to threaten Earth. Today we show them that humanity bows to no one. Battle stations. And may whatever gods exist have mercy on our enemies, because we will not. The crew responded with a roar of approval. The alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. 50 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had built except the Dreadnoughts. They arranged themselves in a perfect formation, a display of power and discipline. On the flagship, War Master Quellen looked at the blue planet in the distance. Somewhere on that world, the primitives who had destroyed the Eternal Seeker waited. He would make them regret their defiance. He would turn their world into an example that would echo across the galaxy for millennia. Broadcast the terms, he ordered. War Master Quellen stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Righteous Fury. Around him, holographic displays showed all 50 ships of his punishment fleet arranged in perfect formation. This was the largest military force the hegemony had assembled in 3,000 years. It was, in his opinion, excessive, but the Council had demanded a show of overwhelming power. Begin transmission, he commanded. His communication officer, a young warrior named Vex, activated the system. Quellen's message would be broadcast to every receiver in the system. He spoke with the authority of 12,000 years of dominance. Inhabitants of the third planet, I am War Master Quellen of the Valdric hegemony. You have committed an act of war against our sovereignty. You destroyed a hegemony vessel and killed its crew. For this crime there can be only one response. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. However, the hegemony is merciful to those who show wisdom. You will surrender immediately. You will open your world to hegemony occupation. Your industry will serve the hegemony. Your people will be integrated into our labor castes. You will be given the honor of serving a civilization that has brought order to the galaxy. Refuse and we will cleanse your world of all life. You have one of your planet's rotations to decide. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Quellen looked at his second-in-command, a veteran warrior named Krell. Do you think they will surrender? Krell's scales rippled in what passed for a shrug among his species. Primitives always react with either immediate submission or foolish defiance. Either way, we will be home within a cycle. The response from Earth came in less than an hour. A single voice, female, speaking in their native language with the translation following. War Master Quellen, I am Admiral Chen of the Terran Coalition Defense Force. Your vessel entered our system without permission and fired upon our civilians. We defended ourselves, as is our right. We do not recognize your authority over our system. We do not submit to threats. This is your last chance. Leave our system now and we will allow you to depart in peace. Continue this course and you will share the fate of your scout ship. For a moment, the bridge of the Righteous Fury was silent. Then Quellen began to laugh. It was a harsh, bitter sound. They threaten us? With their primitive weapons? With their crude ships? Krell did not laugh. He was looking at the sensor displays with growing concern. War Master, I am detecting unusual readings throughout the system. What kind of readings? Power signatures. Hundreds of them. They were hidden, inactive. Now they are coming online. Quellen moved to the sensor station. The displays showed the Sol system, and across it markers were appearing. Near Jupiter, around Mars, in the asteroid belt, behind Earth's moon. Everywhere he looked, new contacts were emerging. How many ships do they have? He demanded. The sensor operator worked frantically at the controls, still counting, War Master. At least 100. No more, 200. They are spreading throughout the system. Quellen felt a tremor of doubt, but he crushed it. Numbers meant nothing without capability. What is their largest vessel? Scanning now. Multiple large contacts. The biggest are approximately 5 kilometers in length. 5 kilometers. That was larger than anything in the hegemony fleet except the ancient Dreadnoughts that had not seen combat in millennia. How had these primitives built such ships? Show me, he ordered. The main display changed. It showed one of the human ships emerging from behind Earth's moon. It was massive, blocky, and covered in what appeared to be weapon emplacements. It had none of the elegant curves of hegemony design. It looked brutal, functional, dangerous. They built that in 300 years? Krell whispered. Before Quellen could respond, the sensors screamed a warning. 3 more ships of the same size were emerging from other positions. Then 5 more. Then 10. War Master, I count 17 of those large vessels. The rest are smaller but numerous. Quellen's 3 hearts beat faster. This was not what he expected. The Council had sent him to crush primitives, not to face a fleet that rivaled his own in size. But he was War Master. He had fought in 40 campaigns. He had never lost. He would not start now. All ships, battle formation, he commanded. We will advance to the 3rd planet. If they do not surrender when they see our power, we will burn their orbital stations and force their submission. The hegemony fleet moved forward in perfect unison. 50 warships, each one a masterpiece of engineering, began their approach to Earth. Their shields glowed with power. Their plasma cannons charged. They were invincible. The human fleet did not wait for them to arrive. Instead, they moved to intercept. Quellen watched the display with growing confusion. The human ships were not maintaining formation. They spread out in what appeared to be random patterns. Some moved fast, others slow. There was no discipline, no order. They do not know how to fight, he said, relieved. They may have numbers, but they lack training. This will be easier than I thought. Krell was not so sure. War Master, their movements appear chaotic, but look at the result. They are surrounding us, creating overlapping fields of fire. Quellen looked closer. Krell was right. What appeared to be chaos was actually calculated. The human ships were positioning themselves so that no matter which way the hegemony fleet moved, they would be under attack from multiple directions. Clever, Quellen admitted, but cleverness cannot overcome superior technology. All ships engage at will. The Battle of Sol began. The hegemony ships opened fire first. Plasma cannons released bolts of superheated matter toward the nearest human vessels. The shots crossed the distance in seconds and several struck home, but the human ships did not explode as expected. Their hulls absorbed the impacts, glowing white-hot but holding together, and then they returned fire. What emerged from the human ships was like nothing Quellen had ever seen. Not plasma, not lasers, not antimatter, just solid projectiles, thousands of them, fired from magnetic accelerators at speeds that made his sensors struggle to track. The first rounds struck a hegemony cruiser. They punched through the shields as if they were not there, tore through the hull and detonated inside. The cruiser broke apart in seconds. Shields are ineffective, the tactical officer shouted. The projectiles are solid matter, moving too fast for the shields to stop. Quellen could not believe what he was seeing. Kinetic weapons were ancient technology, primitive. They should not work against modern shields, but they were working. Too well. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire. But the human ships were faster than they appeared. The smaller vessels darted between plasma shots, their movements erratic and unpredictable. The larger ships, the Dreadnoughts, advanced slowly but steadily, their massive guns firing continuously. One of the human Dreadnoughts, painted with the name Indomitable on its hull, unleashed a full broadside. 20 magnetic accelerator cannons fired simultaneously. The tungsten round struck a hegemony battleship, and the ship simply ceased to exist, torn to pieces by the kinetic impacts. Quellen's fleet began to break formation. Ships scattered, trying to avoid the human fire, but everywhere they turned, more human vessels waited. War Master, we have lost 12 ships, Krell reported. No, 15. They are destroying us. Quellen watched his fleet being torn apart. This was impossible. The hegemony was invincible. They had conquered the galaxy. They had technology perfected over millennia. How were these primitives winning? Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. Small objects were launching from the human ships. Thousands of them. They moved independently, swarming toward his fleet. What are those? He demanded. Unknown, War Master. They appear to be drones? Autonomous weapons? The drones reached the hegemony fleet and began attaching themselves to ships. Then they detonated. Small explosions, but hundreds of them. They targeted engines, weapons, sensors. Anywhere vulnerable. Activate point defense systems, Quellen ordered. But the hegemony point defense systems were designed to stop missiles and incoming plasma fire. They could not track thousands of small, fast-moving targets. The drones swarmed over his ships like insects, and one by one his vessels went dark. A new message came from the human admiral. Her face appeared on his display, calm and determined. War Master Quellen, you are defeated. Surrender now and we will accept. Continue fighting and you will all die here. Quellen looked around his bridge. His crew stared at him, waiting for orders. He had lost 30 ships, more than half his fleet. The survivors were damaged, scattered, and being hunted by human vessels that showed no mercy. For the first time in his long career, War Master Quellen considered the impossible: surrender. The bridge of the righteous fury was filled with smoke and the sounds of dying systems. Quellen gripped his command chair as another impact rocked the ship. Through the viewport, he watched 2 more of his vessels break apart under the relentless human assault. War Master, the Eternal Justice reports critical damage to their main reactor, Vex shouted over the chaos. The Divine Retribution has lost all weapon systems. The Honor's Blade is requesting permission to retreat. Retreat. The word tasted like poison in Quellen's mind. In 12,000 years, the hegemony fleet had never retreated. To do so now would be to admit that these primitives, these humans, were their equals, or worse, their superiors. All ships reform defensive positions, he commanded. Concentrate fire on their largest vessels. Krell looked at him with all 3 eyes wide. War Master, we cannot win this battle. We must withdraw while we still can. No, Quellen roared. We are the hegemony. We do not flee from primitives. But even as he spoke, another of his ships exploded. A human cruiser had gotten close enough to launch what appeared to be a missile with a bright thermal signature. The weapon detonated against the hegemony ship's hull, and the flash was so bright it temporarily blinded their sensors. What was that? Quellen demanded. The science officer's voice shook as he replied. Nuclear weapons, War Master, fusion-based, crude but effective. They are using them at close range to overwhelm our shields. Nuclear weapons. The hegemony had abandoned such primitive technology thousands of years ago in favor of cleaner antimatter reactions. But the humans used them without hesitation, turning their own obsolete technology into a weapon. On the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The hegemony fleet had been magnificent to behold, elegant ships in perfect formation, showing centuries of military tradition. But tradition meant nothing in the face of practical warfare. Deploy the second wave of drones, she ordered. Target their command ships. I want their leadership disrupted. Her tactical officer, Commander Price, worked the controls. Drones away. ETA to target 40 seconds. Chen studied the displays. The alien fleet was trying to reform, but her ships were not allowing it. She had split her forces into 3 groups, 1 to engage directly, 1 to flank, and 1 held in reserve. The aliens had expected a traditional battle line against line. Instead, they faced controlled chaos. The Dreadnought Defiance reports successful strike on enemy flagship analog, Price reported. Heavy damage to their command vessel. Good. Keep the pressure on. Do not give them time to adapt. A communication came in from one of her cruiser captains. Admiral, the aliens are attempting to target our civilian evacuation routes. Should we redirect to intercept? Chen's jaw tightened. Negative. Hold your position. The defense platforms will handle any ships that break through. She switched channels. Platform command, you have incoming hostiles. Authorization to engage is granted. Around Earth, the orbital defense platforms came to life. These massive stations, built over decades, were designed for exactly this scenario. Their railguns tracked the hegemony ships that had broken formation and were heading toward Earth. The platforms fired. Tungsten rods, each one weighing several tons, accelerated to impossible speeds. 3 hegemony ships exploded before they could reach weapons range of the planet. The others reversed course, fleeing back toward the main battle. On the righteous fury, Quellen watched his forces crumble. 40 ships reduced to 20, then 15. His warriors, trained for battle since birth, were dying because their enemy did not fight by the rules of civilized warfare. They have no honor, he shouted. They use outdated weapons. They hide behind automated defenses. They do not even fight in proper formation. Krell, his old friend, spoke quietly. War Master, perhaps that is why they are winning. We have rules, traditions. We fight the way we have always fought. They fight to win regardless of method. Quellen wanted to argue, but he could not. Every tactic his fleet employed, the humans had a counter. His ships tried to maintain distance and use their superior range. The humans sent fast attack craft to close and engage. His ships tried to group for mutual defense. The humans used their drones to swarm and separate them. His ships tried to retreat. The humans pursued relentlessly. It was then that Quellen realized the truth. This was not a battle between primitive and advanced civilizations. This was a battle between a military that had not faced a real challenge in millennia and a species that had spent its entire history at war. War Master, the humans are broadcasting another message, Vex said. Let me hear it. Admiral Chen's face appeared again. Behind her, Quellen could see her bridge crew working efficiently. No panic, no fear. Just professionals doing their jobs. War Master Quellen, she said, and her voice was not triumphant. It was tired. You have lost 40 of your 50 ships. Your remaining vessels are damaged. I am offering you terms of surrender one final time. Lower your shields, power down your weapons, and heave to. You and your crews will be treated as prisoners of war under the Geneva Conventions. You will not be harmed, tortured, or killed. You will be held until such time as your government wishes to negotiate your return. She paused and her eyes locked onto the camera as if she could see Quellen directly. I do not wish to kill you or your warriors. You came here following orders. But if you continue this fight, I will destroy every last ship in your fleet. This is not a threat. It is a simple statement of fact. I have more ships, more weapons, and right now I am winning. Choose life, War Master. Choose to go home and tell your leaders what happened here. Or choose death and accomplish nothing. Quellen looked around his bridge. At Vex, barely old enough to have earned his warrior marks. At Krell, who had fought beside him for 30 years. At the young science officers who should have been exploring stars, not dying in battle. He thought of the hegemony, so sure of its superiority. He thought of the Council, who had sent him here with orders to crush these humans without ever considering they might lose. And he thought of his own pride, which had brought him to this moment. Open a channel, he said quietly. Krell looked at him in shock. War Master, you cannot open the channel. Quellen's voice was sharp, then softer. Old friend, it is over. We lost. Let us at least save those we can. The channel opened. Quellen faced the human admiral and spoke words that no hegemony warrior had ever spoken in 12,000 years. Admiral Chen of Earth, I am War Master Quellen, and I surrender. On behalf of my fleet, I surrender. We will power down our weapons and lower our shields. I ask only that you honor your word and treat my warriors with respect. Chen nodded slowly. You have my word, War Master. Send your ships to these coordinates. We will escort you to a holding area near Jupiter. Medical teams will treat your wounded. The transmission ended. Quellen gave the orders, and across the battlefield, the surviving hegemony ships went dark. Human vessels moved in, not to attack but to escort. In the command center on Earth, Secretary General Santos watched the battle end. Around her, people cheered. But she did not join them. She looked at the casualty reports. 2 human ships destroyed, 17 damaged, 3,000 dead, 6,000 wounded. They had won. But the cost had been high. And somewhere out in the galaxy, the rest of the hegemony would hear about this. They would hear that 50 ships had been defeated, that humans had forced a surrender, and then they would have to decide, peace or total war. Chen stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable, looking out at the captured hegemony ships. War Master Quellen had been brought aboard for formal surrender. He stood beside her now, unarmed, his head bowed. Why did you accept our surrender? He asked. You could have destroyed us all. Sent a message to my people that humans are not to be challenged. Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she said, because that is not who we are. Yes, we can fight. Yes, we will defend ourselves without mercy. But we are not conquerors. We are not exterminators. We kill when we must, but we prefer to live in peace. Quellen looked at her with something like wonder in his 3 eyes. In 12,000 years, no species has ever defeated the hegemony in battle. You did it in 3 days, with technology we considered primitive. How? Because we have spent our entire history fighting each other, Chen said simply. Every advancement, every weapon, every tactic, we developed it to survive against ourselves. War is in our nature, but so is the choice to stop fighting. She turned to face him directly. Go home, War Master. Tell your leaders what you saw here. Tell them that humans want peace, but we are ready for war. Tell them the choice is theirs. But make sure they understand. If they choose war, we will not stop until we win. The Hegemony Council chamber had never been so chaotic. For 12,000 years, this place had been a sanctuary of order and tradition. Now it echoed with shouting voices and accusations thrown across the curved walls. High Counselor Vexith struck her staff against the floor 3 times, the traditional call for silence. It took several attempts before the assembled leaders quieted enough for her to speak. War Master Quellen has returned, she announced, her aged voice heavy with emotion. He brings with him 10 ships. 40 were lost. The punishment fleet has been defeated. The chamber erupted again. Some counselors demanded Quellen's execution for failure. Others called for immediate mobilization of the entire hegemony military. A few, the quieter voices, suggested that perhaps they should reconsider their approach to these humans. When Quellen entered the chamber, flanked by guards, the room fell silent. The War Master looked different. His scales had dulled. His 3 eyes, once bright with confidence, now carried the weight of loss. He walked to the center platform and bowed to the council. "Speak," Vexith commanded. "Tell us how the greatest fleet assembled in 3,000 years was defeated by primitives." Quellen raised his head. "With respect, Counselor, they are not primitives. That was our first mistake, our fatal mistake." The warrior caste representative, a massive being named Draxel, roared in anger. "You dare make excuses? You had 50 warships. The best technology in the galaxy." "Yes," Quellen replied calmly. "And they had 200 ships that we never saw coming. They had weapons we did not understand. They had tactics we could not predict. They had something else too. Something we lost long ago." "And what is that?" Vexith asked. "The memory of real war." Quellen looked around the chamber at the assembled leaders. "When was the last time any species challenged the hegemony? When was the last time we fought an enemy that could hurt us? 3,000 years ago? 5,000? We have spent millennia fighting primitives who crumbled at the first sight of our ships. We forgot what it means to face an equal." He activated a holographic display showing footage from the battle. The council watched in silence as human ships tore through the hegemony fleet with brutal efficiency. "They do not fight with honor," Quellen continued. "They fight to win. They use nuclear weapons at close range. They employ automated drones. They refuse to maintain formation. Every rule of civilized warfare they ignore. And that is why they won." A science caste counselor spoke up, her crystalline voice chiming. "How did they develop such capabilities in mere centuries?" "Because they have been at war with themselves for their entire existence," Quellen answered. "Every weapon they used against us, they first used against each other. Every tactic refined through countless conflicts. They are not advanced despite their primitive origins. They are deadly because of them." Draxel slammed his fist down. "Then we mobilized the full fleet. 10,000 ships. We burn their world to ash and lose 10,000 ship," Quellen said quietly. "Counselor, I fought them. I watched my best warriors die. If we send more ships, they will destroy more ships. The humans have resources we cannot match. They have a system rich in minerals and energy and everything needed for war. They have orbital factories that can produce ships faster than we can. And most importantly, they have the will to fight until the end." Vexith studied Quellen carefully. "What do you recommend, War Master?" The title hung in the air. Quellen had failed. By all traditions, he should have been stripped of his rank. Yet Vexith still called him War Master. Perhaps she understood that his failure came not from weakness, but from impossible circumstances. "I recommend we open diplomatic relations," Quellen said, and the chamber erupted once more. When silence returned, Quellen continued. "We can try to destroy them, and they will make us pay in blood for every meter of space. Or we can accept that we have encountered something new, not a species to conquer, but a species to negotiate with." "The hegemony does not negotiate," Draxel shouted. "We rule." "Then the hegemony will fall," Quellen replied. "Because if we go to war with these humans, they will not stop at defending their system. They will bring the war to us, and I do not think we can win." The silence that followed was profound. For 12,000 years, the hegemony had been invincible. Now one of their greatest warriors stood before them and said they might lose. On Earth, 6 months had passed since the battle. The Sol system had become a fortress. New defense platforms orbited every inhabited world. More ships rolled out of the orbital shipyards daily. Humanity was not celebrating victory. They were preparing for round 2. Admiral Chen stood in her office aboard the Indomitable, looking at reports from her intelligence division. They had learned much from the captured hegemony crews. The aliens had been shocked at how well they were treated. Prisoners were given medical care, comfortable quarters, and even allowed to communicate with their homeworld under supervision. "The cultural exchange has been fascinating," Dr. Wu said during their weekly briefing. "The hegemony species we captured have never encountered the concept of prisoner rights. In their society, defeat means death or slavery. The idea that we would feed them, heal them, and treat them as fellow sapiens confuses them." "Has War Master Quellen been cooperative?" Chen asked. "Very much so. He has been teaching our linguists his language. He has explained hegemony military doctrine. He says he wants to prevent more bloodshed on both sides. Chen nodded. She had developed a strange respect for the alien commander. He had the courage to surrender when continuing meant needless death. That took a different kind of strength. Admiral, we are receiving a faster-than-light transmission, her communication officer interrupted. It is coming from hegemony space. They are requesting permission to enter our system. Chen was on her feet immediately. How many ships? Just one, ma'am. And they are broadcasting on all frequencies that they are unarmed. They are calling it a diplomatic mission. Chen looked at Dr. Wu. What do you think? It could be a trick, he said carefully. Or it could be genuine. The hegemony has never encountered defeat before. They might actually want to talk, Chen made her decision. Grant them permission to enter, but have the Third Fleet on full alert. If this is a trick, it will be their last. The hegemony diplomatic ship entered the Sol system 3 days later. It was smaller than their warships, elegant in design, and clearly unarmed. It broadcast continuously in dozens of languages, repeating the same message. We come in peace. We wish to speak. The ship was escorted to Earth orbit by a full battle group. Chen met with Secretary General Santos before the aliens were allowed to send a delegation to the surface. What do they want? Santos asked. To learn according to their message, Chen replied. They want to understand us. And what do we want? Chen considered the question. Peace, if possible. We have shown them we can defend ourselves. Now we need to show them we can coexist. The alien delegation consisted of 5 beings. To everyone's surprise, War Master Quellen was among them. He had been returned to hegemony space with the other prisoners, and now he was back. The meeting took place in Geneva, in the same chamber where humanity had declared its unity 200 years ago. Quellen and his delegation sat across from Santos, Chen, and the human diplomatic team. It was Quellen who spoke first, his words translated by a device that had been developed through cooperation between human and hegemony scientists. Secretary General Santos, Admiral Chen, representatives of humanity. I stand before you not as a conqueror but as a student. My people have ruled this galaxy for 12,000 years. In that time, we believed we had reached the peak of civilization. You have shown us we were wrong. Santos listened carefully before responding. War Master Quellen, we did not seek conflict with your people. We defended ourselves. We do not want to be your enemies. And we do not want to be yours, Quellen replied. That is why I volunteered to lead this delegation. I have seen human strength. I have experienced human mercy. I want my people to learn from both. One of the other aliens, a scientist named Krial, leaned forward. We wish to understand how you developed so quickly, how you created such effective weapons, how you maintain unity among so many different factions. Dr. Wu smiled slightly. Those are large questions. The answers are not simple. We have time, Krial said. If you will teach us. Over the following months, a strange new relationship developed. Human scientists shared some of their knowledge with the hegemony representatives. In return, the aliens taught humans about faster-than-light travel and antimatter generation. It was not a simple exchange. There were arguments, misunderstandings, and moments when old fears nearly destroyed the fragile peace. But slowly both sides learned. News of Earth's victory and the subsequent diplomatic relations spread through the galaxy. Species that had been part of the hegemony for thousands of years heard the story and began to ask questions. If humanity could stand against the hegemony, what did that mean for them? Could they demand better treatment? Could they have their own voices? The galaxy was changing, and Earth was at the center of that change. 1 year after the Battle of Sol, Secretary General Santos and War Master Quellen stood together on the observation deck of a new space station. It had been built jointly by human and hegemony engineers, a symbol of cooperation. My people are afraid, Quellen admitted. For 12,000 years, we knew our place in the universe. Now everything is uncertain. Change is always frightening, Santos replied. But it is also necessary. Your hegemony ruled through strength alone. That could not last forever. And what will replace it? Santos looked out at the stars. I do not know. But perhaps something better. A galaxy where different species work together, not because they are forced to, but because they choose to. Quellen was silent for a long moment. Then he said, When I returned to my homeworld, I was expected to face execution for my failure. Instead, I was asked to explain what happened. I told the council that humanity had taught me something important. What was that? That true strength is not the absence of fear or the inability to lose. True strength is knowing when to fight and when to seek peace. Humanity could have destroyed my surviving ships. You could have refused to negotiate. But you did not. That showed more power than any weapon. Santos smiled. We are all learning, War Master. Humans and hegemony alike. Perhaps that is the real lesson of all this. The galaxy is large enough for all of us if we are willing to share it. Below them, ships from a dozen different species moved through space. Some human, some from various hegemony worlds. They flew together now, not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners exploring a future none of them could have imagined. The galaxy had trembled when Earth's dreadnoughts arrived. But what followed was not the darkness of war, but the light of possibility. Humanity had shown the universe that strength could be tempered with mercy, and that even the mightiest empire could change. The age of the hegemony's absolute rule was over. The age of cooperation was beginning. And at its heart was a small blue planet that had refused to bow, had fought when necessary, and had chosen peace when victory was won. Earth had arrived on the galactic stage, and the universe would never be the same.